Yo, welcome to Crate 808, and today we have a very special guest on board. He's a chicken hawk hunting for a chicken, and it'll get you paranoid when you hear his Glock clicking, hear him growl, owl. He got the night vision like the wise old owl. He's high strung, click he's sprung, cause he doesn't live on the humdrum. This guy is not a kid, he's a veterano. He's down, another proud Hispano. Yes, we've got the mighty one-ton champion in the house. It's an honour to welcome on Big Sen Dog from Cypress Hill. How are you doing, man?
Yes, brother. Thank you for that wonderful intro, man. That's never happened like that before. That was really cool.
Bro, you've been dropping these gems for decades, so I had to just pick up a few and reflect them back to you, my man. It's so nice to have you on, and I want to go into new album coming out, Back in Black. But before I do, I need to ask you a question I've asked everyone who comes on. Sen Dog, what's the least hip-hop thing you've done in the last 24 hours?
Well, let's see. This morning I was power spraying dog poop off my front porch. Don't think that has anything to do with hip-hop.
That is one of the best answers I've ever got. That's one of the best answers I've ever got. Sen Dog absolutely smashed it. Amazing. I'm sorry you had to do that, but now you're here. You're sitting in with us. We're going to go into the new album, but before I do, Cypress Hill's debut, 1991, 30 years last year. First of all, congratulations. Take a second to take that in, because that's a huge like legacy you've left us. And I just want to tell you, if you don't know, Cypress Hill lyrics were huge in like UK playgrounds in the 1990s. There were so many white English kids trying to be Latino. This is the trend you guys set. I just wanted to let you know that, man.
That's all you could, hope for. I remember as a youth when the Beastie Boys came out, and how and Run DMC and all them, and how much I liked their style, and even tried to imitate what they wore, so I could see that happening. Yeah,
yeah,
cool.
Man. Oh man, it was amazing. Yo, quick reminder, if you're enjoying the show, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so you'll be kept up to date with all that we're doing. And also, man, get involved in the YouTube comments. Man, we love hearing from you fellow hip-hop heads. We love nerding out, so bring those takes and just bring that flavour, man, and we might even shout you out on the show. So yes, appreciate all the support. Now back to the episode. As we are talking about the album, you've been asked questions about this album and your work generally so much, and I just wanted to ask you a few things I found really interesting, which was like, I know how important Muggs is to Cypress Hill, how all of you are, but we hear these stories of Muggs asking you to quit your day job while recording. I was wondering, how did that feel? How confident were you in your own craft and skill in 1991, in 1990? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, when that happened, that was before we started recording. And, Muggs had this vision, and he's like, I think, you and B could, are the guys to do this, and he talked me into doing that. I did it. At first, of course I went broke and, didn't have, any coin or whatever. But in hindsight, I mean, what a visionary to see this already, years before it actually came to fruition. And back in those days, I don't know if I wasn't really like a student of the craft. I was more of a student of, I'll rap here when I can, but in the meantime, I gotta get this money. I gotta go to work. You know what I mean? But he knew what it was going to take. It was going to take, a total commitment type of thing. And with me being gone, 10, 12, sometimes, 14 hours of the day, it was just like, okay, you need to come over here and do this with me. This is going to be a better thing for your future. And back in those days, like I told you, like I wasn't really like a student of hip hop or anything like I should have been. And I felt like, why me? Why did he want me in it?
Wow.
You know what I mean? But, yeah, so I think that I had to become comfortable in my own skin, and you could kind of see that in the early days, maybe even hear it too, that I wasn't all the way there at the comfort level that I would be at one day.
but that comfort level was incredible. Because I remember the Boom Biddy Bye video, and you would like pop in and lock in and doing that very Sen Dog moves with the fisherman hat in the video. And I thought you were made for this in those videos. I know they're, as you got seasoned, but when you say that, then that you were a little bit like, you know, you wasn't sure about it, that maybe even a little bit of imposter syndrome. What was that first piece of validation you got where you realized, actually, I am made for this shit. I should be here?
Well, I mean, I think we went through and recorded the whole album, and then we went to Philadelphia for a couple of weeks to just, you know, gel with Joe and Joe Nicolo and all those guys and see, you know, what was up. And while I was there in Philly, they talked us into doing like a Spanglish song.
Right.
And I had a verse or two that I had written a long time back, not, you know, in the distant past. And Muggs was like, dude, do that rap on this. So when I did that song, Latin Lingo, and then we heard the end product, I was like, dude, I think I do belong. I think,
yeah.
You know, it came in small increments. It wasn't like all of a sudden, like, I'm here with a Superman cape. It was more like, okay, it was just like a confidence booster, you know?
That's interesting you say that. We hear all these rumors, we hear all these reports, you know, like Latin Lingo. I remember people telling me that wasn't even going to be on the album. Do you remember why? Do you remember why that wouldn't be on the album? Well,
because it wasn't like a complete song. I just had like two verses of it. And when Joe the Butcher heard it, he fell in love with the style and was like, oh, we got to do this. So, like I said, it was something that I would do, you know, when Kid Frost or Mellow Mayonnaise would invite us on stage or whatever, and I would bust those raps. And one day Muggs heard them, and, you know, like good producers do, you know, nothing leaves their memory.
Yeah.
And he just remembered, they go, do that thing that you would do with Frost and Mellow, do that thing. And then I only had two verses, so BReal wrote the third verse, and he also, you know, did the hook, Latin Lingo, baby, you know, that part, he did that too. So it wasn't like, you know, I wrote the whole thing myself, but that's how it came apart. And the only reason that it wouldn't be on the album is because we never talked about it as being a song.
Oh, right. Yo. Us here at the Crate 808 podcast have kicked off our Patreon. So if you don't know what Patreon is, it's a platform where you can go and for a small donation, you can help support us make more hip hop content for you. Go on to patreon.com/Crate808 and you can check out all the little payment options you've got there. You can check out the 2 new episodes you'll be getting every month, live chats with us guys, just to rap nerd out with you guys. We're going to go into some wide-ranging episodes, delving into the work of the Wu-Tang Clan, MF Doom, and Jay Dilla. So get it locked if you want that new granular look at hip-hop. So go to our payment tiers on Patreon, big up yourselves. If you choose to support us, thank you so much. I will give you a personalised shout out on the show, and we shall catch you in one of these live rooms, and let's get this community going. So spread the word. Much love for your time, and peace out. Boom. Now, that's amazing. Okay. Because again, one of the iconic cuts, such identity in it as well. Like, bang, this is who we are. I was going to ask you then. We had Muggs on the show a few years ago, and he told me about you guys performing before you'd like really broken through in front of like 14 people having breakfast and stuff like that. Do you remember those days? Can you tell me about those days?
Yeah, back in what he's talking about is when we were on like our first tours were promotional tours. And, you know, we had, there was back in those days, there was a lot of mom and pop record stores, as well as some major ones. And they would throw, you know, breakfast events for all the buyers that bought the records, you know, from these people in, you know, like in Northern California or something. Right. So, one day it was really early. I want to say it was like 7:30 in the morning or something. And, you know, we're scheduled to perform while all these people are eating breakfast. And we did. And, you know, I didn't have my performing voice beat. It was too early in the morning. We sounded like hell. And I just remember these people are eating pancakes and waffles while we're performing. This is the oddest thing that I never thought I'd do, you know?
Hold on, right. I know memories are bastard. Sometimes you can't remember these things. But do you remember the set list of a 7:30 a.m. Cypress Hill show? Do you remember the set list at all?
No, but it probably had, real estate in there.
Mm-hmm.
How I Could Just Kill a Man.
At 7 in the morning, you're singing How I Could Just Kill a Man.
Yeah, and maybe, like Hand on the Pump.
Yeah.
Whatever was, we had like a 4 or 5 song set in those days that we did no matter where we went, because most of the time people didn't even want us to perform, and we insisted, or the other band insisted. And so we had like 10 or 12 minutes every night to perform. So our show was very short.
Right.
But it was probably, 4 or 5 songs just off of that first album.
Amazing. I'd love to be a fly on the wall of that breakfast place. Just incredible. Just before we move on to some other stuff like Black Sunday and Temples of Boom, I was going to ask you How I Could Just Kill a Man. Obviously, huge record. Like, for you personally, why do you think that song resonated as much as it did?
Well, I think the track that Muggs made for us is hypnotic. It like catches you in a trance as soon as you like get into the song, and then when we were talking about, people, totally got the wrong idea at first, because it's not a song about, going out there and, killing for fun and mayhem or whatever. It's about protecting your spot and what you have, you know what I mean? And I remember I interviewed with Nas, and he told me the first time that he heard How I Could Just Kill a Man, his first thought was, could they say that on the radio? And I've never thought about that, but we were just saying How I Could Just Kill a Man, and no, there had never been a song like that. But I think like the track and the vocals, and then, the power vocals behind it, it all came in and locked as one, you know what I mean? But I think there's just something hypnotic about that song, and once it starts bouncing, and the song gets to grooving, it's undeniable, you know.
Timeless, man. Timeless. And the video, Q-Tip, Cube, oh man, Fisherman hats were huge. Oh, it's brilliant. I was going to go into Black Sunday, but before I do, right, I was going to talk to you guys. Another massive thing you changed was our approaches as a society towards marijuana, weed, smoking generally. I had a few questions here from our patrons on our Patreon. As one guy, Toby Nicholson asked, you have just got the perfect soundtrack to Blazing, right? But what do Cypress Hill listen to while lighting up? Which I thought was a good question.
Well, if we're in the studio trying to record or whatever, we're listening to our own beats, But like if you're in the car with me one day and we're just hanging out and doing stuff, going places or whatever, you might get a little bit of everything, because I listen to hip hop and funk and soul. I like even the early, when funk was just coming in mixing with disco. I'm talking about like Chic and stuff like that. I have no way of controlling what genre I play next. I just play what feels good. So any day with me, we might be listening to The Who or Supertramp or something, and I might follow that up with, Run DMC and Aerosmith, Walk This Way, or there's been so much music in the world that how could you just like listen to one?
Yeah.
So yeah. And and then I get my my heavy metal thing going, where I like to jam out to like Pantera and Slayer and Testament and stuff like that. So it's always a musical, a very colorful collage of music, in my world that I listen to. And then I have, the favorites that I heard my parents playing with Celia Cruz and Tito Puente and all that stuff that I grew up on as like a little kid, so I still listen to that stuff. So
love that.
I try to keep my musical world, very, cluttered with different styles. Yeah.
Just like the Judgment Night soundtrack. I remember hearing the Judgment Night soundtrack and thinking there were so many influences in that, and it was just incredible. And just shout out to that soundtrack and what you guys did, Sonic Youth, all that stuff, Pearl Jam. Oh, it's amazing. And you even opened for Nirvana, if I remember correctly. You even opened for Nirvana, which was like, wow, this hip hop act is doing this. It was incredible. I was going to go into Black Sunday, right? again, over here, I think that was the album that really seeped into, everybody was listening to that, to the pop people listen to pop, people listen to hip hop, people listen to rock, you know what I mean? Could you tell me, I heard a story that ain't going out like that. You've recorded that and you all did mushrooms and listened back to it. What do you remember, if that mushroom tale is true, what do you remember about that?
I just remember, we had got a hold of those shrooms, and I think it was like the last day of recording. And we were proud to get this record done. We have a second album done. It's, a proud moment. And we just started popping in mushrooms, eating them away, whatever. And like after a few people had left, the mom was like, "Dude, play the record again. Let's hear it." And when we heard it under the influence like that, it was like, wow, this record is really good. God damn. I was like, wow. And then the next day when we were sober, I was like, hey, let's listen to that record again. And it was just as good without the mushrooms that it was with the mushrooms. So we were like, okay, so we were fooling ourselves. There's some hot stuff on here.
Yeah.
So yeah, we would do stuff like that.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. I was going to ask then, because when we talk about these albums, and obviously then you go on to Temples of Boom, stuff like that. With Cypress, we on this podcast like to talk about 3 album runs and how important these pieces of work are. I put Cypress's run right up there, especially the 90s. It's one of the best runs ever. It's incredible. For you, what do you think made that album run special? And why do you think it impacted globally like it did? Like, what are your thoughts?
Well, I thought we had did like a lot of work leading up to that album release with our first album, and we stopped touring the first record because we had been at it so long, and now it was a successful piece of art, and we had to concentrate on the next album. And the only reason that happened was because it took like 8 or 9 months for the world to catch up to Cypress Hill, while we were out there doing little promo tours and living in a minivan, and then things happened. So the album was there almost, more than half a year, not doing much. So when it caught on later. And then by the time it was successful, it was time to do another album. So, and when we sat down to do that other record, I don't think we even had a direction or where we knew we were going to go or anything like that. And I hope I'm not straying away from the question, but I just think that, the world was ready for us, and they had heard enough off this first album. And now they wanted to see what we had coming into this new album, because the stuff that we did on that first album was a culmination of 3 years of work. Yeah. So we could take our time with that record, as opposed to Black Sunday, which we basically got done in a couple months. So it was, people were ready to hear what we had come up with, and we had come up with this Insane in the Brain song. And little did we know, we didn't think that was our big song. We thought our big song was going to be Ain't Going Out Like That. Right. But then when the label got a hold of us, they were like, you guys make the songs, we'll pick the songs, okay? Right. So they picked it right. They picked Insane to be the lead single, and we're still singing it today. I know, absolutely. Interesting thing about the Insane the Break, because it's such a big record. Again, like you said, like it kind of permeated the mainstream. For you guys, did you ever feel constrained by your band and fan expectation, I suppose, whilst you're blowing up? Did you ever feel pressure, like, oh God, like, is this what we're expected to be all the time now? I don't know. Where were you with that? I mean, I did it. Maybe DJ Mug did, because he was the producer of it all and everything. But I never felt like pressure. Like, I refused to let that enter my psyche at that point, And, I just felt like, okay, we're on album number 2. Let's see what we do here. We have beaten the odds with the first record. So the second record, we should have a little bit of pressure off, because now we know that we could sell. And I've always felt confident in my band that whatever product we pull out, people are going to want to, check that out and listen to it or whatever. But, the only pressures would come later on during that run. But making that album, I felt like we were in a good place.
Right. Interesting. That's interesting. I've got another question here from one of our patrons, Dan O. He said, this is, I don't know if you ever felt there were people who were maybe biting your style or who were really, really clearly influenced by your sound. But he said, at what point in your rise did you start hearing those kind of sound-alikes, and how did you deal with it when you did hear it?
Well, I could honestly tell you that I honestly think when people try to imitate your style, it's, you know, it's it's like the highest form of a compliment you could give somebody, you know, and I don't know if there was like outright people trying to do our style outright, but I remember hearing the drums for How I Could Just Kill a Man were in every hip hop record for like 2 or 3 years after that. You know, I was like, dude, everybody's using this drum pattern that Muggs used, you know what I mean? And I remember that had a lasting effect on me because it made me realize the importance of the song.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And then, you know, you had crews that came out with songs with the same energies, How I Could Just Kill a Man and stuff like that. But, you know, I don't think there was any outright, like, straight copying of it. I think elements were used to create other hip hop records. But as far as like somebody straight, like, you know, using our style, you know, here and there, maybe a piece of that or a piece of this, but, you know, I never thought I heard anything that sounded as unique as us.
But you were unique. I suppose it's really hard to imitate sometimes, you know what I mean? But absolutely, yeah, I get you. I love that. I was going to ask you then a little bit about a thing you said about DJ Muggs. I heard you call him the Jimmy Page of hip hop at that time. And I was wondering if you could break that down for me, unpack that a little bit for me.
Well, Muggs had this very unique way of, you know, we're talking about working with the SB 1200 and turntables and actual live records and sampling records and this and that, you know, and he had these ways of comparing us, or not comparing us, but saying, we're going to do this the same way that Zeppelin did. You know what I mean? He was always like, you know, looking back on those guys like Pete Townsend and Jim Morrison and stuff that those guys did to enhance our records, you know? And I kind of felt like we had like this guru guy in control of making our beats and whatnot. You know what I mean? So that's where the whole Jimmy Page of hip hop came up from. And I remember him being very, very big into like, he would just listen to, you know, Zeppelin and the arrangements and, you know, what was Jimmy Page was playing on this part. And he was very big into like the history of it all. And he knew, you know, Page's kind of like process that he went through. So that's what all that came from, you know? And we kind of felt like we're just as strong as any other band, you know, with Muggs right here, because this guy has a different feel, much like Jimmy Page, you know, a different ear, you know what I mean? And that's how we just started calling him that.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. One thing then, before we moved into Back in Black, misconceptions. This is an interesting thing I think with Cypress. People look at you guys in different ways. Do you think there's any common misconceptions of yourself and Cypress Hill, or do you think there isn't?
I think there was a lot of misconception in the early days. You know, people, you know, I remember we pulled up in, I think it was like St. Louis, Missouri or something. And, you know, there's this, you know, Christian group with picket signs, you know, Cypress Hill are evil. And if you listen to Cypress Hill, you're going to go to hell and this and that.
Damn.
And I'm like, wait a minute, how did all this come up? I'm like, wait a minute. Okay. I think people just had the wrong idea about marijuana and cannabis altogether for the most part at that point. And they thought, you know, that we're out there pushing Class A, you know, hardcore narcotics on the kids. And it wasn't, because we had our own beliefs, and it was, you know, pretty much marijuana based, and people would call, you know, whatever radio station we were on, curse them out, like, how dare you have them on there and this and that.
Damn.
You know? And I felt like the misconception was there, you know, people weren't really, you know, people weren't really, they were looking at us and judging us without listening to us. You know, and I'm like, okay, well, first of all, you got to listen to our record, and then we'll go from there. And I think that we did a lot to break down a lot of those misconceptions, you know, that was out in those days, you know. So I think sticking around long enough, you'll break down a lot of those barriers just by never going away. So that was some of the early stuff that we, you know, that we faced, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we ever looked at it as a obstacle or something that's going to get in our way. We just knew we were getting people's attention, and that was the main thing.
Oh, it's big, man. It's big. I love that. So the new album's coming out 2022. Black Milk, one of my favorite producers, on top of one of my favorite groups ever. This is a dream for me. I was going to ask you, what Black Milk, what can you find in Black Milk's music that you can't find anywhere else, and why did it suit you for this album?
Well, mind you, I'm going to tell you that I had never heard of Black Milk prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
Working with him, and that's not a knock on him. That's more of a knock on me because, you know, I'm not up on my everyday hip hop artist like I used to be. Whatever.
Yes.
But when I first got to the studio and started listening to the tracks, I was like, man, there's a real easiness about his production. Like, you know, some production when you first hear it, you kind of like cringe a little bit, like I don't know if I like that, whatever. But with him, there was just like you could, when you started listening to his music, it was like, okay, you just let it play, let him, you know, listen it out and see what happens. It was just like an overall easiness of the way that he did his tracks, even the way that he talked to us. It was just like, you know, like an easy, you know, smooth character, you know, doesn't get bent out of shape, that kind of thing. And I like that style, you know, because when I feel that way, that easy, that comfortable with somebody, then I'm okay. Let's hear everything that you got.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know if it was that we were going to work with him on the whole album, but that's what it turned into. And that's what I mean. You know, that it was an easy, smooth, you know, transition into doing what we did.
Right. Okay. Was there any reason Muggs wasn't helming it as a producer, or what role does he play on the new record?
Well, you know, we did the last record with DJ Muggs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the record before that, Rise Up, was, you know, a bunch of different producers and whatnot. And I'm not saying that we're never going to work with Muggs again, because I believe that we will. But, you know, Muggs did like the first, you know, 8 records or something was all DJ Muggs. And at that point, I guess we felt like, you know, we needed a different approach to things or whatever. And so we went that way, only, you know, to come back to Muggs to do Elephants on Acid, which was a good record. It was a great record.
Brilliant.
And yeah. And then, you know, you never know, like maybe next album, you know, we'll get back with Muggs again and see what, you know, where that old familiar road takes us.
Yeah, man. Here for it. Absolutely here for it. Absolutely. Sen, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Before you go then, last piece of great music you heard. Could you let me know what that is? Could be old, could be new. Just the last great piece of music you heard. The last great piece of music I heard? Well, that's a good question.
Let's see. Oh, wow. Because there's... Okay, probably, and you're not going to believe this, whatever, but there's this band in India called Bollywood.
Right.
Kind of like Bollywood, Bloodywood.
Uh-huh.
And I heard them on the Serious Metal channel, and I was like, wait a minute, these guys are from India, don't change it, let's hear it. And I was blown away. I was like, the guys could sing. They could do the hardcore metal, scream and yell and all that stuff. And I was really blown away. So I went right on Apple and found the album and downloaded it because I found it that interesting. But you know, with me, you know, you, like I told you before, you get hanging with me, we might be listening to any this and that, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But the last piece, that was like the last thing that I heard that really opened my mind up.
Mm-hmm.
But we have also finished, I know you're talking about Cypress Hill, but my other band, Powerful, just finished another album, and I'm really hyped about that.
Oh, snap.
And I think there's a really cool shot in it. I hope, you know, people, I hope people really get into it and give us a listen and and they like it.
Love that. Oh, double Sen Dog this year. Amazing. Love that. Well, Sen, good luck with everything. Doors are open. Anytime you want to come back on Talk Hip Hop, we're here. And man, just good luck. And thank you for the music, man. Thank you for all of it.
Right on, brother. Thank you for a great interview. I really appreciate it.
Oh, appreciate you. Big up, bro. All love to the fam. Peace.
Yes, man. Big up.